You- Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host, and also the show is known as PWD Allies Podcast on your favorite app, Spotify, you name it, you find it whatever you like to check it out on when you're out and about and you want to hear the podcast version of the show. Today, I'm really excited to launch our first open mic session, and it's via YouTube. So if you're watching, or you hear about it, tune in and listen to us. Just throw whatever's out there, and we just throw it on the table. And it's the traditional open mic that used to be on Twitter Spaces once upon a time, way back when, in the old time machine. You go back in time. The popular demand was open mics, and everyone was saying, "I want open mic back. I want open mic. I miss it." Well, here it is. Here's open mic, and
in a galaxy far, far away.
A galaxy far, far away. Open mics were once on Twitter Spaces, now available on YouTube. And today it's going to be great because it's the launch of the first episode. So, I mean, if you want to come on to open mics, please reach out to me via email, and that is weatherman.langley@gmail.com. That way I can keep track of who's actually going to be coming on to the open mic, and then I will send a link out to you. And we can keep track that way. And I think that's the better method of it. We only have 7 spots available. Right, so it's first come, first served. You want to be on it?
There's 9, including you and me, Brent. But I think we have to be on the show.
We have to be on the show.
We have to be on the show. Whether people want us on the show or not, we're gonna have to be on the show.
We have to be here, be there or be square.
Yeah. So because it's the first show, we got a little bit of teething problems, I guess. We did have potentially 9 invites, or 7, I guess. But we got a small group right now. Hopefully, there's gonna be others that are joining in. But yeah, it's just because it's the first episode, it's kind of teething problems. But I'm sure they'll pick up in popularity. So if people want to come on these open mics, you do have to reserve a spot. It's reserve seating, VIP seating, reserve seating. So you have to send us an email either to myself or to Brent. And
your email is
my email is neeljm.nm@gmail.com, and yours is Brent.Weatherman.
Weatherman.Langley.
Weatherman.Langley. Yes, I knew that. Yeah, I feel like I'm on Trivial Pursuit or something. It's like, no.
Who wants to be?
You lose.
Who wants to be the guest on the next open mic?
Yeah.
And for this month, there's some open mics that won't be available. So we're launching today, but it was advertised that sometimes that it won't be on, and unfortunately, when a guest does want to come on to that one day, or if it's a Friday, unfortunately, open mics will get bumped.
We've just launched this every Friday thing. We're saying it's every Friday, but for the next 3 Fridays after this, it's gonna get bumped because you have a thing that you have to do next Friday. And,
That's right.
And then we have Cheryl coming on. Cheryl Hardcastle's coming on the 8th. So it's gonna get bumped again. So and it is what it is. And
then on the 15th, and then on the 15th,
and then on the 15th, you're having another thing, so it's gonna get bumped a third time. So we've just launched it, and it's gonna go on a hiatus already for after today. It's gonna go on a hiatus for 3 weeks.
Yeah. The 22nd of December, definitely there will be an open mic on that day. But
just before Christmas.
Yeah.
It was the night before Christmas and all through the house.
It was an open mic. It was leering, but only you can hear.
Nobody was stirring except for Dan Trays.
Yeah, and he had the open mic.
If I stir anymore, I'm gonna bust a button, man. You guys are hilarious. And I thank everybody for joining us too, right? It's just one of those things. The things are going to work out, right? The Chamber's project is getting. I want to remind everybody in Toronto, in Scarborough Southwest, get out and vote tomorrow, Sunday, and then on Thursday the 30th, Ward 20 councillor. Enough of the boring shit. Let's have some fun.
Okay.
And on Mondays we have the new series that we're starting actually next Monday. That's actually going to be really, really good.
Wow, it's this coming Monday. I always get confused when people say next Monday. That's another thing I get confused about is when people say next Monday. I always think, do they mean this coming Monday or the following Monday? I always get messed up with that, right? It's so confusing. It's like next Monday. It's like, is it this Monday or is it the following Monday? But it's this coming Monday. So
I had that with a guest. I said, "Well, come on that one. Well, which day? Can you clarify which day? Oh, that one. Oh, sorry, no, that one's already booked up, but we can get you on this one."
The English language is so messed up, eh?
Yeah.
Is it this Monday or next Monday?
Yeah, and it is clarifying, right? Because otherwise, it's like, oh, sorry, we've already got someone in that slot.
Yeah.
The following one. Oh.
But I am really looking forward to the spot. I have to check with. I still have to check with Tom, but I'm pretty sure it's a go because he hasn't checked back with me. So I'm just assuming that no news is good news type of thing. But I'll check with him after we run the show to make sure that he's a go for Monday. But I am really looking forward to the show because I think it's a really good opportunity to like I said, shine a light on lived experience because that's your whole deal. Like when you first started this whole thing was let's share stories of lived experience. And
totally. I mean, and that's what the show has always been about. And I mean, there's so much always to pile in, on what people are going through on a day-to-day basis. I mean, so much going on around the world right now, and social media just blows up, right? It's all about like the wars going on, and I focus and I try to, as much as it is very important to hear these things because it does affect many like millions and millions of people around the world. Mm-hmm. But I also focus on the day-to-day issues that affect the disabled people's lives in Canada. And not just in Canada too. I mean, it's also around the world too. And so, I mean, people watching this, and I also invite you to come on. It's not just for Canadians with disabilities. I mean, if you're in another country and your government is legislating people into deep legislative poverty, I don't know. I hope not. Really, because that's what's happening in Canada. I invite you to reach out to us, and if you want to come on to our open mic session when we do have them, which will be later this month. So the next one will be December 22nd, just to be on the safe side. Otherwise, it'll be disability stories. We have a 9 series starting on Monday the 27th of I almost said December there.
Yeah. Whoops.
Of November. I mean, imagine.
It'll be back in February.
What's that?
I said the show will be back in February. Don't worry about it.
There you go.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, or jump into a leapfrog. Oh, it's like one of those ones where they have 29 days in February, where that month didn't really exist.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
imagine if you had your birthday on
Oh man.
February 29th.
Oh
You'd
yeah.
have a birthday every 4 years. That'd be kind of
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh yeah.
How old are you? Well, 16, I think.
I'm holding on to 16 because I didn't have a birthday for 4 years.
Yeah.
So you don't get older.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I hear so many stories though of people reaching out to the politicians of saying, well, so and so is not talking about disability, about DERB or the Canada Disability Benefit. I just want to remind people though, and I'm not an expertise, but I'm just observing what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. It's policy, right? It is all about policy. So if you're not feeling that your voice is being heard, if the federal government has control on this delivering the emergency benefit that to help Canadians with disabilities, there's no reason why they cannot do that. They can do that. It's a policy choice, right? So again, it is about policies. They've got money. They can give it to the ultra wealthy, rich corporations around the world, and tax havens, right? They disperse all this money out. They can take care of their citizens. So again, like, it doesn't matter who's in government, right? It's all policy driven, and I know we dived into that with our guest that we had on the other day.
Yesterday's podcast was great. So anybody that hasn't watched it, please watch it because it was really great.
It was really great.
Liked it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it's so important about it's like it's like a he said, she said government. Like it's like of saying, well, oh well, you're in government. Well, okay, fine. True, like the policy is now whoever is in government though is responsible for that policy. Mm-hmm. So they the representatives try their best. In some of them, maybe some of them not so much, but some of them do their best to try to change the policy. And so, I guess as society, we need to get to the bottom of why are these policies it's so archaic. I know, Avon, you probably would dive into this too. I mean, feel free to jump in. I'm just kind of just rambling here, but I'm just going to give an overview. So whatever government's in power, right? I was like, why cannot the MLAs or MPPs or MPs, whoever it is, or even levels of municipal government, why can't they not change certain things? Why is it so stringent that they cannot change these policies? Like the former minister in BC, and like I know we talk about the former minister a lot, but
it's because we love him.
Yeah, Shane. I mean, he learns
Hats
a
off
lot.
to Shane.
And Shane's he learns a lot on ground level. Like he said, he bent over, he talked to people on the street level, and he says his eyes opened. He did not know how bad it was, and so he thanks us constantly every time that we have him on, like for teaching him.
Yeah,
he didn't know.
And I think it's important. We have to be humble and realize, like, we're not the experts. Like, you and I are the experts, Brent. No advocate can say that I am the expert, or But we are each experts on our own lived experience, right? But like, again, the whole point of this podcast is not to say that I'm the expert or you're the expert or Dan's the expert. It's about sharing. It's about sharing the stories. That's the most important thing. It's not to
absolutely.
It's not to trumpet the fact that I know way more than It's not about that. It's that we are experts in the sense of our own lived experience. That's where it kind of begins and ends, right? And, and it's about sharing the stories. It's about sharing the stories.
Yeah. It's and I don't pretend to know everything either, and that's why the guest and I kind of always steer back to our guest that we had on yesterday, because she made a good point. Elena made a very, very good point. It's she advocates for what she believes in, for what she knows.
What she knows,
and she doesn't. She said she doesn't know a lot of on other disability issues or things that she's advocating for, but she'll be there for people to talk to. And I'm the same way. Like, it's like I'm still learning from stuff that Dan, like you teach me stuff that goes on in Ontario and in Toronto, right? Of ground level of, wow, like that's what's going on there. And so I can kind of,
and it makes sense to only advocate within your wheelhouse, because again, like for Dan, he has the lived experience of being homeless. I don't have that lived experience. I don't know what it's like. So I mean, far be it from me to tell Dan what it's like to be homeless. I have no idea. So why should I come forward and say I have all the answers about homelessness when I have no flipping idea whatsoever? And I think, you know, when politicians say that they have all the answers on homelessness too, or they have all the answers on poverty too, when they've never experienced homelessness, they've never experienced poverty, they've never experienced what it is like to have a disability. Don't pretend that you have all the answers when you've never had the lived experience of disability, you've never had the lived experience of poverty, you've never had the lived experience of homelessness. Don't pretend, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, because it basically what it does is that she paints a negative wall painting, should we say, that has streaks running all the way down the wall painting, right? And it's like saying, oh, well, that's shit, you know, that wall painting is no good anymore. Oh, but that's what we did, though. I mean, you asked us to do wall painting, and now it's all crayons all over, and watercolors are dripping down. But it's like saying a painting something that's just not fully, you know, true, because without lived experience, you know, or listening to people with lived experience stories, that's how you build the advocacy. That's how you build the trust within government, right? As they will do the best they can as the representatives in the communities, but they need to listen directly to the people that are being affected in their communities and saying, okay, what is the policies? Why is this happening? And they will do what they can to change those policies, to modernize it to a standard of living, dignity, respect, autonomy. And that's what we talked about so much on the show. And I think that's why people love the show so much, because that's what we talk about on a day-to-day basis when we have it going.
Yeah, and we don't edit ourselves, or we don't.
Oh no,
it's always off the cuff.
We just throw it out there.
But you know, as soon as you said painting, I thought of Bob Ross. Remember Bob Ross? The art of. I used to love watching that show. Like, I don't know what. Even when I was like 7 or 8 years old, I was watching that show. It was great. Loved it. And I don't know. I just love, because it was like this. He would do oil painting, and it would be the half-hour show, right? And he'd just start with a blank canvas, and he says, I'm gonna do a happy little tree right here. And he says, where does that tree live? I think he lives right here. Let's draw a happy little tree right here. You know.
Or what was that? What's that movie? Oh, geez, the mind went blank on that. It was that one actor. He was at art museum. There was an art museum, and he saw these paintings. And he goes, oh, and he goes, oh, all of a sudden, wipes it. All of a sudden, oh no, and it starts wiping off all the facial. What was his name? Now I was just like, oh.
Oh man.
Was it Mr. Bean? Oh yeah, Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean. Oh yeah.
Yeah, remember the painting? Oh yeah. It was, I'm like. Yeah. Oh geez, that was hilarious. Just kind of, that's why I came up with that.
Oh, sorry, Brent.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
Well, on the head, actually, right? It's a lived experience, right? So what pisses me off the most, and Aiden can set me straight if he's bad with swearing. But what pisses me off the most, high heaven, is when I go to advocate for something. So say, for example, I go to give a deputation at City Hall, and the last one, I think, was for a health-related unit or whatever. And, you know, you're talking about the homeless and health-related stuff, and it just happened to be a lady in a wheelchair and disability and such. And then somebody says to me, well, Dan, that's not the way it works. What the fuck? Like, what are you talking about that's not the way it works? I was homeless before. I am disabled. And these 200 people sitting behind me are disabled too. So what do you mean that's not the way it works? That's why I know it's time for the thinking process to change, right? Even within myself, 46 years old, right? I find myself having to sort of pivot my thought process on it. Sorry, the workers just came back in. That's why for this stupid shit. But you have to pivot and be able to sit there and say, okay, maybe I don't know everything. Sure, I was homeless from 1997 to 2016, right? But that didn't happen during the COVID days. That didn't happen during all these times when we're so underserviced for whether it be refugees or people that have been waiting for housing for decades on our very streets, right? I said it before and I'll say it again. Here in Toronto City Hall, right out front, there's probably about 10 to 20 people that sit the street there on any given day. So anybody in this city that tries to, skirt the homeless problem here is full of crap, right? We just got to stay on plan, stay on. I hate to be repetitive, but the singular narratives are what sucks. So what I mean by that, I'll be very brief, but is when people show up to protest something, and they're speaking these singular narratives that make absolutely no sense. Like I had to sit there and watch the other night as somebody was telling me what was probably a 91, 92-year-old man that he was killing children thousands of miles away, right? What, like, make it make fucking sense or shut up and get out the way, right? Because there are plenty of people, and like you said, combine all our efforts. I don't know everything. You three don't know everything, right? Sonia doesn't know everything. If we combine those efforts, like, you can accomplish so much. You're not going to get everything done, but you can accomplish so much. But there's just some people that it's more important to get that singular narrative out there and get that sick license. It's just crazy now.
Yeah. Well, it's like we have so many encampments they call, right, and Victoria has them. And what do, Dan? They say, oh, the city goes, oh no, they can't be there. We need to dismantle the encampments. We got this one lady in my building. She's always freaked out, and she bumps into me, and she's like, hey, that one guy, he followed me all the way to from the bus stop all the way here. And I said, oh, well, the encampment's down the road. She goes, oh no, they shut it down. I go, what? I go, yeah, they put a new playground up there, and I figured they were just going to leave them alone. She goes, oh no, the city says they can't be there. So then the guy was all over the place, and I mean, he needs some help, right? I mean, and I get that, but then the government goes, oh yeah, we've got more work to do. Yeah, not to worry. It's like, and meanwhile she's all freaked out, and he's shooting up apparently right outside our door, and we have a little bench out there, and I said, well, did you go through the other door? She goes, no, I went there and I told him to get lost. I'm like, okay, well, it's probably a good idea not to really intervene with that individual. Just go in, don't say nothing, just go in, close the door, because if you intervene, I gave her his advice, if you intervene, the state of mind that person is in, it may, it could put you at a vulnerable situation. I said, I've learned that if you see something and it's not a concern, move on, just keep going, because everyone has their own situation of why they're homeless. And I said, and that's part of advocacy, is understanding. I said, I said right to her, and she got it. I said, I would love to, which I know I can't, but I said, I would love to go with the camera and say, hey, why are you homeless? But you can't, because now it's an invasion of their privacy. You have to get permission from that person to record them when they're on the street, because it gets a really attacky situation. But I heard something on the radio, Dan, this morning, and I was just like, I shook my head. They had some advocacy individuals on talking about homeless encampments in Vancouver, and now the city says, oh yeah, there's 2 sites for people to go to, but there's a lot more. Well, they have advocacy groups that went around and they said no, like they were full, but the city says, oh, there's more work to get these people housed. There's no housing available to them, but they pretended to say there's lots of housing. We know, as the one guest that we had on the show not that long ago, Neil and I had on Leona, and she went with the Twitter name Witchcraft. She was homeless. She couldn't find housing all the way from Hope all the way to Vancouver. And the government says, oh, there's housing. No, there was no housing for her. And meanwhile, she goes to the premier's constituency. Oh, well, you're not one of our constituents, so we can't help you. She said, well, I have no constituency office because I'm homeless, so I can go to any constituency office that's available. And it's just passing the buck of saying, well, we got housing for people. But the reality is, the truth is, no, there's not enough housing. And why? Because the rates haven't been increased across the country. give people more freaking money, like a standard basic means of living. These rates across the country, the disability rates are archaic. They need to, basically, a basic income. I mean, that's why we talk about a lot of that too, right? But what level of it? Yeah, I don't know what level of how to get to that. I mean, Joseph, the numbers guy, he's always got the numbers, but he's so upset at too because the Canada Disability Benefit, again, I don't know. I think it's just it's in the dark.
I
Right?
just wanted to back up a little bit, Brent. I mean,
Yeah.
getting back to the homeless situation.
Yeah.
And I mean, my heart does go out for people that are homeless for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a serious problem, and people are homeless for a reason.
Yep.
But
Yep.
the other thing that doesn't get enough airplay, like just taking my own situation in my own condo, we have had a number of issues with homeless people in and around the building. And I've mentioned this before on the podcast. We had a couple of people that were hanging out in the garage area of our condo, and they were lighting fires to keep warm down there, lighting fires down there, and like all kinds of junk and needles, and like there was 2 or 3 times we had to spend it was like $750 each, and I think we spent it was 3 times we did that. Plus we had to put in we gated the whole thing off. We put in a gate to gate off this part of the parkade that they were. So that was another $1,500 expense. So already you're up to you're talking about what is that, like $4,000, almost $4,000, and so that $4,000 is being passed on to us. People that live legitimately in the building, paying mortgages, paying rents. We're living here legitimately, and we're paying $4,000 out of pocket because of the homeless problem. And again, my heart goes out to people that are homeless, but it's an expense that's being passed on, and the government's like, well, it's not our problem. Well, who cares if we're passing the buck? It's like let the public pay for it. Let the people that are living in the condos, struggling already with high rents and high mortgages, let them pay the $4,000 to fix the problem, of cleaning up the messes of the syringes and all the other stuff, right?
And that's the thing with the homeless issue, right? It goes back to the lived experience. So one solution I brought up here in the city, and it still hasn't been looked at, I don't fucking have any clue why, is you get somebody trusted in the community that can walk around and monitor these people. And of course you pay them. It's not a free volunteer job. But somebody, just say for example like myself, somebody that's from the community, that's gotten out of the community, and they're not there to harass or cause anybody a problem or anything, or deny them any services or access to anything because they're homeless. But just to say like, hey boys, can you move along and not set that fire there? And it does work. There's a certain skill set for it. So I'm the guy that does get on the subway and can read a problem within like 10 seconds, right? And that's just from my past in and out of shelters and in and out of any provincial facilities that I may have been in up to the age of 30 years old. It's just a quick way of reading somebody and such. But they have to include the community, because if you just go in there with either a suit and tie or a police officer, that's when the problems happen, right? But there's so many varying issues that contribute to people being homeless that it's just like, if you try to play catch up now, your grandkids will be 175 years old by the time you catch up. They have to have supportive housing with wraparound services. I told somebody the only 2 steps they should make at the very beginning for a homeless person is supportive housing with wraparound services, which means for your health or general health and such. And then you have to have the permanent housing for them to stabilize themselves and be a contributing member of society. It's a proven fact that I know here, at least in Ontario, it's probably across Canada too, but it actually costs somewhere around triple the amount that any one person receives for assistance to keep them in a shelter or on the street matter, at any given time. So why not pay, say, half of that and get the person in the department that they can stabilize in, and then go from there, and then the person can contribute, and you'll save the costs across the board, whether somebody mentioned it on one of the shows, whether it becomes to health, to jail and corrections, transportation, even employment, it would boost that person's attitude. So there's so many solutions, but you have to have the will to get the solutions done, and you need that lived experience. I'm so sick and tired of people say, oh, I did 20 years of schooling for this, so I'm the expert. You're not the fucking expert until you've been there. I don't know how to ride a horse. I've only been on a horse once, right? Am I going to go running an equestrian event? So come on, folks. You know what I mean?
You've made that point before, Dan, about the cost of a shelter bed being so expensive, I'm glad you made the point again, because it's so true, and it's just like, there's a cost associated to everything, and it's do you want to? There's that saying of priming the pump, like putting a little money into something, and letting it work versus like letting a mistake happen and then having to throw a whole bunch of shit into it afterwards, right?
It's like the governments love to look at is we need to study the situation, consultations to determine what the needs are to fix the problem. Well, we know what the problem is. The underlying issue is give people stable housing, give people the income that they can survive in society, not just the basics, but give them more than the basics. Like give them enough room where they can buy what they need and contribute it back into society.
So much of the government policy, it seems, is reactive rather than preventative, right? They react to it after the fact. It's like they go, oh shit, now we got to fix this. Rather than like having a little bit of foresight and saying, well, if we put a little bit of money here, we're going to prevent all this other shit coming down the pipe, right?
Yep.
And
totally.
And I mean, you use the term. I love reusing the terms that government uses, where you use the term a wraparound support, Dan, and government loves to use that term, wraparound support. You know what else is a wraparound support? My frickin' pension that is clawed back is a wraparound support too. And it's like, I get pissed off when the government says, oh, wraparound support this, wraparound support this, wraparound support this, and it's like, well, you're just clawing back another wraparound support. Don't even use that term anymore. Like it's like a dirty word to me. Like, they just throw it around like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And it's become a swear word to me, really, because it's like, wraparound support is like bullshit.
Yeah.
The other reason I use that term, right, is because here there's so many different terms being used. So, for example, when you hear any of our people get on TV and say, affordable housing, this is affordable housing, it's going to help. There ain't no fucking homeless person that can afford $3,000 a month. Therefore, who's it affordable to? You, your grandmother, and everybody else you left it to, right? So maybe I'll work on that for you just because you expressed that, and now I know that. I don't personally know what other term to use. When I say wraparound support, what I mean by that is like mental health and addiction issues. If you have an eating disorder, helping you get the proper foods you need. If you need help with the CAS to get visits with your kids back, that's what I mean by wraparound support. I am about what they're doing with all pensions. I mean, I look at it now and I'm thinking to myself, oh God, when I finally get there, there's going to be nothing, right? But when it comes to when I use that term, I strictly mean mental health and addictions.
And I know what it means too.
Yeah.
I know what it means too, Dan. I'm just saying it becomes a trigger word for me because like I know what a pension is too. A pension is a wraparound support too, and you just wish that if you're going to use a term like wraparound support, don't rape and pillage other wraparound supports and say they don't exist anymore, right? Like don't play favorites and say, well, this wraparound support of a pension doesn't qualify anymore. Sorry,
I know
only this wraparound support over here matters. This one over here doesn't matter anymore.
I know, like when I watch the news, like they use a lot of media, they'll use the different phrases, eh? But I think, I think like the word wraparound support, I think it's automatic. I think like a lot of people they'll use that word wraparound supports, and like I know what you mean, Dan. Like I totally know what you mean. Like I mean I've used that terminology myself many times, like wraparound supports for, I don't know, like wraparound services or. There was a word I used yesterday. Actually, I know Neil, you were laughing. Actually, Elaine, I just started just howling, laughing. Actually, and Dan, you'll probably laugh on this one too. I called it regurgitated.
Oh yeah, we were talking about it was the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, and
Yeah.
I said they should call it poverty recycling, and then
Yeah.
you said they should call it poverty regurgitation.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I was
that's
like, yes.
yeah, I know, and then she just started just laughing away too. But
Yeah.
you know, that's what it is. It's just a terminology. I mean, and nothing toward you, Dan, on that at all.
No,
'Cause
I
No,
no, I
no,
mean,
but
I
that-
use terminology all the time too, and I can't even really find the right word. Honestly, like I don't know. I know that the government they just love to the government they just love to spin with
well,
words.
and again, that's my point. It's not. My point is like I understand what the word is.
Yeah.
I just get pissed off when
Yeah.
when governments qualify. It's like, well, we'll call this a wraparound support, and we'll just ignore this over here, and
Yeah.
we'll just ignore this. You know, it's like, like let's redefine things and like
Yeah.
make pink unicorns out of things. Like I said, like this becomes a pink unicorn, and this we'll make this one valid, and this is a pink unicorn, and it's just like
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff just bugs me, right?
Yeah, I love your viewpoint on that though, Dan. Like how you broke down of like of the wording on all the different categories on that. I think it's so important that people do need to hear that. As much some people go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that society, how governments are not taking care of the citizens when they hear these things that they're not getting all the basics services like of if they're drug addicted or they're homeless or they need other services that are not provided. I think it's so important that to get that narrative out, and I always when I hear when you mention these things, I'm like, yes, like thanks,
Well,
Dan. Like,
And
Yeah.
and another thing we touched on yesterday's podcast with Elena was
Yeah.
she was talking about when ministry does those they reply back via email with official ministry responses, right?
Yeah.
And it's so much like cut and paste stuff, right?
Oh.
It's all this cut and paste stuff without any real substance, right? And
Yeah.
and I've used the term before in my emails, kind of attacking government. I'll use the term like Pavlov's dog. Isn't everybody
Yeah.
familiar with the Pavlov's dog, where it was the psychologist would ring a bell and then feed the dogs and then so the dogs would be fed and then every time you'd feed the dogs, you'd ring a bell, and then after they got conditioned to the ringing of the bell, after a while the psychologist would just ring the bell and the dogs would salivate, right? It was like this automatic response of whether the food was present or not. It was just like this automatic, like let's just salivate, right? And sometimes I feel that that's what government responses are. They just like, well, it doesn't really matter. Like it's just an automatic response of, like ring the bell and let's just put out an automatic cut and paste response without any real reason or substance for doing it. We're just gonna put it out there, and there's no real like reason for salivating or putting out that response, but they just do it anyway.
Yeah, and I was looking at like different responses that, when the government say about affordable housing, it just drives me batty. I'm glad you mentioned that too, Dan, like when you were talking about that, because what is affordable? Like I could say someone's making like six figures, or they're making like $500,000 a month. They could say, the city says, oh, well, that's affordable. Well, it's affordable to them. who is it affordable truly to? And when I always say like the truly affordable, like I'll emphasize truly affordable. And I think some of the words that that I come up with too is it's called below market rental. And one of my ideas too is in across the country is to really lower down the property taxes, right? Because that way it gives developers an incentive to actually build. But then there has to be a restriction in place for those developers saying, okay, they lower down the property taxes or their operating costs, like building materials, all that stuff. When they lower it down enough, then there has to be a condition in place for the developer saying, okay, we need X amount of housing built at this rate. So the landlord's still making money. I mean, they're in business to make money too, right? But the developer will make it. Now they bid, and whatever company buys it from that contract, they say, okay, these are now the rates. Because otherwise, with no vacancy control, I'm kind of tossed on that because some provinces say, well, if the municipalities put in a vacancy control, the landlords are going to turf out the tenants, right? They're going to find a way of getting someone out. But I don't know, like with these rents keep going up and up and up, and these corporate landlords, the problem is that there's no ceiling, like it's unlimited ceiling. And so the rents just keep going up, right? So there has to be some kind of control in it. What's your guys' view on about the vacancy control?
We have Ellen now. I don't know if he has
5 minutes to be done, Sonia.
Mic on or not. Ellen has just joined, so
okay.
Can you hear us, Ellen?
That's the other thing too about labels, right? Like I was at a board meeting the other day. Some of you know, I'll be brief about it. I sit on the board of directors for what's called the Inner City Family Health Team. That's in downtown Toronto. We take care of the areas of the Gay Village and Moss Park. And basically what it is I have a mandate from both the provincial and municipal government to help make decisions on providing services to the homeless, to street workers, to what have you. And that's what one of the gentlemen asked me the other day. We were doing a training session that we have to do yearly. And what that gentleman was asking me was, Dan, since you're homeless people, I want to ask you, what's the proper term to use when referring to homeless people? And I said, I don't know, because it's a different time from when I was homeless. I was homeless, it was just, hey, Dan, you're homeless? Yeah, I'm homeless too. Okay,
Okay.
Right? So you have to learn how to read the room with all these aspects of dealing, whether it be directly with the government or with people such as ourselves that are part of the PWD community. You have to read the room, and it's like I say to everybody with all the terms going around nowadays, just tell me your name and what you need my help with, and then I can make my own decision on A, whether I want to help you, or B, whether you're an asshole or not, right? It's not going to be based upon where you're from or what sex you are or even your walk of life. I treat everybody like a human until you treat me like an asshole, and that's the way it should be, right? Or else you're never going to get it accomplished.
Yeah. No, I mean, you make a great point. I mean, as a parent, that basically my one huge lesson that I always tell my son, if there's only one lesson that I teach him and I want him to learn, if there's only one thing, it's like, don't be a jerk, and that's it, right? Is like, just do unto others and don't be a jerk, because there's so many kids that I have seen, again, as a parent, where kids are just jerks, and it's just like, don't do that, because you know what? Kids that are jerks grow up to be adults that are jerks. I mean, it's no mystery, right? If you're a kid, if you're a jerk kid, you're gonna be a jerk adult, right? And unfortunately, there's a lot of jerk adults on Twitter, especially now. To mention one platform, and it's just like, I don't have time for that. That's why I'm not even on Twitter anymore. But it's just a lesson that, as a parent, not only can kids learn that, like, don't be a jerk, but a lot of adults need to learn that too. Like, don't be a jerk.
You know what? The word for jerk in adult is bully.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. 100%.
We call the kids jerks. We call the adults bullies. They're basically the same one and the same person, because that kid that was a jerk when he was a kid maybe knocked someone's book out of their hand when they were walking down the hallway, or smacked them into the locker, or what have you, became the adult that would kick someone's can if they were homeless, and or step over them when they were sleeping, or maybe even became a cop in some instances, and were more than glad to tear down a tent city, not because they were told that was their job, but because they actually reveled in it. So, whatever the case may be, but I feel that kids that are jerks in their teens just become adults that are bullies.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah. 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 You know, like I said, it's
and they become bullies on platforms like Twitter and but they're also bullies in real life, and the kids see that displayed in person and emulate it. So
yeah. Yeah.
Well, see, and that's precisely why when I was employed by a certain place, I would always speak back, right? Because, I could put up with a name calling, I could put up with being criticized, because we all have differences of opinions, right? But once you try to pull rank and pull bullshit, just because you know you're going to get a reaction out of that person, whether it be employment or family or circle or friends, that makes you a bully too, and that makes you a total jerk and asshole, right? So you see, even you can hear my dog, I don't know, in the background, but I'm mentioning bullies and he's barking his head off, right? Like we all gotta live together. We all fuck up. None of us are perfect, right? I was a jerk as a kid. I was a jerk for part as an adult, right? I'd like to say, I'd like to think that I got it mostly together now. But when push comes to shove, you hit the nail on the head. You shouldn't be a bully. We should all be trying to help each other. And if you can't get along, move on, right? Because there's other things to do in life to worry about, like you guys said, what people are doing on Twitter or in their spaces, or if they switch to paradrama or whatever. Like, just be a human being. Think of it as if it were your own family member, and then tell me what you would do. Would you rob your own grandmother? Would you run over your own brother? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta go get a dog. Hold on.
Yeah, we're all human beings, right? That's first and foremost. Is we can all put labels on each other, like we seem to love to put labels on each other of, like, I'm this and I'm that. But
I'm the king. I'm the king.
I'm the king. But yeah, I mean, bottom line is we're all humans on this planet called Earth.
Yeah.
And
for two.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't pretend to know everything. I don't want to know everything. I mean, I learn from people on things, but everyone has their knack on what their interests are, on advocacy, on changing things. Like, I can give a list of things that I would love to keep advocating for, but if I broaden too far, then I was like, oh, I want to accomplish this, and it's like, okay, it's like I try to stay in my pathway. For me, I'm like known as the 375 guy.
Yeah, actually, before we get too off topic, I just wanted to go back to, like, the problem that I have with labels. I mean, it sounds so simple to say we're all human beings, but some people like labels. They say, well, I want to be labeled disabled, it's fine, or I want to be labeled indigenous, it's fine, or I want to be labeled gay, or I want to be whatever the case is, right? I mean, some people love labels, and that's fine. The problem is, though, from, like, a human rights perspective, like from this, again, this is my opinion. I think that we're drowning in labels, and the problem is when it comes to things like human rights, it's like, well, proof to me that it's a human rights violation from a disabled lens exclusively, right? They want to narrow it down to such a finite level. It's like get it through that needle hole and prove to me through that needle hole that you've been discriminated against, and because it's like we want to like have all these labels, like 12 labels for a person. Like we'll attach 12 labels to you, Brent, and if those 12 labels, if you can't prove discrimination under 12 labels, then it's not discrimination anymore. You know. Yeah. Whereas it's like if you just
everyone's view on that word, that disability lens, that's focused right in. What's everyone's view on that one? I mean, it just drives me batty when I hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I use that term too because I realize that's what the government uses. So I actually used it in my own human rights complaint. I used the word disability lens actually because I feel you have to reuse their own words. But my point is like
lingo,
just don't dump a whole bunch of labels on people and say, well, you have to have 12 labels on you and you have to have like 33 labels on you, and like, why can't we just open it up? And I mean, I respect the fact that, you know, I have a disability. I'm actually proud of it, and I recognize that, you know, if you're Indigenous or whatever, you can be proud of that too. I'm not saying that all labels are bad, but I'm saying if you only focus on the label, you're losing sight of the fact that we're all frickin' human beings. Yeah. And why don't we have human rights tribunals that focus on the fact that we're human beings first, rather than trying to get things through a little needle hole and saying, well, you can't prove it through a little needle hole, Neil, so therefore it's not discrimination anymore because you haven't thread the needle like perfectly, right?
It has to be perfectly.
You see that? I mean, that just bugs me. It just bugs me. Like, why can't you just say, on a human level, you're being discriminated against. On a human level.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that should be enough. That should be enough right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It's good perspective on that. Definitely.
Well, one of the things that drives me nuts is non-verbal discrimination, where the politicians say, well, we can't budget this year because we're trying to be fiscally sustainable, but we're going to spend billions of dollars over here, right? And we're going to follow the same what's the word I'm looking for, narrative for the next 2 years. Well, we leave this entire group completely
beyond vulnerable,
ignored, like the way we did with this with Krista Freeland. I mean, she knows she could have budgeted the disability group, and sure, Pierre would have screamed and jumped and thrown a tantrum and the whole bit, but he's going to do that anyway. So why say we're going to ignore the disability community when we're going to spend billions of dollars anyway? Right? I mean, it's kind of like when you're caught in the yard doing something wrong, you might have done some right things anyway, right? Because
there's a little clip that there's a little clip that I'm going to play to you guys. I'm sure you might have seen it already. I know Neil hasn't, but it was from Honorable Peter Julian MP for New Westminster, British Columbia. He did a speech in the House of Commons yesterday. I was going to play the little clip. Okay.
I believe need to be highlighted. First off, this is something that the NDP will continue to fight for. The fact that in the fall economic statement, there was no money allocated to the Canada Disability Benefit to provide supports for people with disabilities is a profound disappointment. It's disrespectful for people with disabilities. We know that half of the people who go to food banks to make ends meet. Half of the people who are homeless are Canadians with disabilities. The government has a responsibility to put the Canada Disability Benefit in place immediately. And that is something that the NDP, the member from Burnaby South, the member from Port Moody Coquitlam, the entire NDP caucus is not going to stop on fighting that. Secondly, I believe need to be highlighted.
Yeah, so that is something that MP Peter Julian, member of Parliament in Ottawa, he represents New Westminster, British Columbia. I call him the powerhouse. He won't stop. Yeah. And Benita Zarello and Mike Maurice, they're all really going full force, and they won't stop. They're going to keep putting pressure on Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau to basically do the right thing, right? Of at least getting a DERB out there, right? I mean, the Canada Disability Benefit, as we know, it's been deliberately delayed. I talk about this a lot on the podcast. I mean, a lot of you remember I used to talk about the pot of spaghetti, right? Empty pot. I mean, but hey, you didn't tell us put the ingredients in. Well, no. I mean, just boil the water, Brent. That's all, and that's basically what the Canada Disability Benefit is right now. It's empty. It's an empty framework, and all they're doing, the MPs that are involved in the developmental stage of it, is consultations. That's all they're doing. Taking their sweet old time. There's no urgency. Why? Because it doesn't affect their lives, right? If it affected their lives, trust me. Whoever's watching this, trust me, that Canada Disability Benefit would have been done right away. The funds would be already getting printed out into people's bank accounts. A DERB, there's no reason why a DERB can't get put out there, emergency relief benefit. Some people call it response relief, but getting the amount out there, I know somebody be watching that one go, no, he got the terminology wrong. But you know what I mean? But it's an emergency fund, right?
The thing that really rags my butt is that we have the Canadian Disability Benefit pension already in place. If they had just pumped it up and applied this amount to it and opened it to all Canadians, then this would have been done already. And it would already, that Disability Canadian pension is already policy. It's already up and running. Yeah. We could have just said, hey, we're gonna increase it from $1,500 to $3,000, and you can apply to it.
That'd be far too simple.
Yeah, as a top up to the
yeah, right.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying that it's already there. It's just they want to look like they're doing the good guys, and in reality, it's everyone for themselves when it comes to politicians in general. I mean,
I think.
Go ahead, Neil. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it was Alan that said something about getting caught with your pants down, and that reminds me what CERB was when CERB was released, and it was like our Prime Minister said it costs $2,000 for the average human to live, and I mean that's being caught with your pants down, because of course then all the advocates were like, holy shit, our Prime Minister just admitted it's a minimum of $2,000 to live per month, and like most of us are living with about around $1,000 mark,
on an average.
And like I said, so that's being caught with your pants down, right? So this whole pandemic has really shone a light on all that. It was like, your the pants are down around your ankles moment, where it's like, wow. And and the government has, even with the pants down around their ankles, they've been so slow to respond to it. It's like, yeah, we know what we did for CERB, we know it, but we still don't want to respond for people with disabilities.
The urgency is just
the
not
urgency's
there.
not there, even though they know they're caught with their pants down. The urgency's still not there. Yeah.
Well, exactly, and the money goes back into the economy, and it thrives so many communities across each region of each province, and then across our nation. And I mean, a disabled person should be able to live wherever they want in the country. Like once you're medically designated as a disabled person within the province that you originally been diagnosed, right? So the doctor signs on it, or a practitioner, whoever it is, right, signs on that and says yes. So now that person should be able to now go anywhere in the country, regardless of whatever province it is. They shouldn't have to go to one province to another one. It's like if somebody got served. That's a good example. Somebody got served. Oh, okay, well you live in I don't know. You live in Saskatchewan. Okay, well you can only get it in Saskatchewan. Oh, you moved to Alberta. Oh no, you can't get served there, or you're disabled. Oh no, you can only have it because you applied for it in British Columbia, but you can't get it in Manitoba or Ontario. You know what I mean? So it's playing disabled against disabled. And the reason why I say that is, and Neil knows this, and Alan and Dan, you've heard me say this story before too, and anyone watching the YouTube know about the topic that I'm going to mention. Recently, about a month and a half ago, some people that Sonia and I know that had moved here about 2 years ago to British Columbia, to Victoria. They moved here from Winnipeg, Manitoba. The reason why they moved here is that his mother, his parents they live out here, so they want to be closer out here to spend time. And now, so they were expecting, and they got the little girl. She's what is it now? A year and 4 months? No, a year and 6 months. I think now. Is it? Year and 6 months now? Yes, 18 months. So. Yeah, and so anyway, we heard the devastating news that unfortunately that they made the ultimate sacrifice, and I call it sacrifice not in a nice way. I say it in a very demeaning way, because a government decision of not raising the rates way above the poverty level. Now, what is the true poverty level? I'm not even going to dive into all that right this second. I'm just going to give a quick overview, but I call it a standard of living. But they cannot meet that standard of living because obviously where they're living now, they now need more space because their little daughter is going to now need another room, right? And also because of health conditions, because of their disability, that's an added another. I guess I don't call it a barrier. I call it another challenge, another channel in their life. Yes, I'll use the good word. That's another channel in their life that they're actually working with, and that is health condition. That because of the amount of moisture that's in Victoria here, we get a lot of cold wind that comes off the water, and so you get a lot of humidity levels out here, and it changes things rapidly for her health. And because of her condition, and I'm sure she doesn't probably, if she's watching, she wouldn't mind me saying this, and I've said it before, she's had seizures, okay? So the doctors have determined that it's environmental, and they need to now relocate. And I mean, the medication she has now is going to help her before she gets the onset of that happening. However, they've made that decision to move before they got the medication. So they've now given up their place anyway. So even if they change their mind, it's now too late to give up their place because their landlord they have a waiting list of people needing a place to rent. If they changed their mind, and I talked to them the other day, if they changed their mind, yes, they could have their same unit back at $1,750. Yeah. They got their unit for $1,550. They could have the same unit back if they changed their mind, but $1,750. Yeah. How's that, right? So now they can now move to Manitoba and Winnipeg, and they're going to have average place for like $1,000 or just less than $1,000.
The pink unicorn behind your head is laughing right now, Brent. It's laughing.
I know, it's laughing harshly. I can hear it in my mind saying, "Ha ha, we got our own way again," because now she have to wait. They have to wait to have their application processed in Winnipeg to determine do they meet the criteria about it being a person with a disability in the province of Manitoba. They will get it. I know that they're going to have it. But why should they have to do that? Why should they have to reply to determine, are they still disabled?
Yeah.
That's wrong. And that's autonomy, guys. And that's, you should be able to move wherever you want. How about the month pass? Can I please go? Brent, go.
Dan, Dan had his hand up a while ago. I don't know if.
Go ahead, Dan. I'm just Brent. Tell me just to shut up.
Oh man, you're all good. It's all good.
I know. I'm just laughing. I know. I'm just joking with you.
Yeah, brother. But I think I told you guys I'm pretty sure it was on the Twitter space. I told you guys over a year ago that this CDB is straight up an election issue. Why bother even talking about it? It's not going to happen. Work on it up until then, but it's an election issue. So part of the problem we've had over the last couple of years, and you guys can attest to this because we've all been there, is that, there was one point where we're all asking for DERB and to double the rate, right? So DERB was the emergency, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And doubling it speaks for itself, right? And if you remember, we had people, like you said, Cirillo, Julian, here in Ontario, we had Mike Schreiner and Mike Maurice, and everybody going to bat, right? And then all of a sudden, when we got to that point, there was a certain narrative that took over the program and started saying, don't ask for what were they calling it? Crumbs. Don't ask for crumbs. Well, guess what, mofos? We're sitting here with nothing now, right?
Yeah.
So
it's the trucker convoy. The trucker convoy mentality took over, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly it, right? And if you want to fight for your issues, whether the way you go about it is wrong or not, right? Don't drag others to it, right? So there's advocates that come on this program I know of and throughout the country that have busted their asses like hardcore over the past couple of decades, right? Only to have certain individuals come in to try, and I'll stress try, to change the narrative and take over. But you got to work together. So like even for example, one of the people I had a problem with within the last few months, right? I actually saw them yesterday on the program. And even though I want to reach through the TV and wreck my TV, you know what I mean? I have no issue with that person because they were sitting, holding a sign at a protest for doubling or tripling, whatever they're asking for now, the ODSP rate. So I at least give that person the credit for going out and making an effort on behalf of all of us, right? It's the singular narratives that take over that, it just makes you want to start throat punching people, and you can't do that, right? So we got to do it.
Oh, totally. Dan, I remember way back you remember on the when I had the Twitter space on the open mic going, right? We'd have that debate. And I think that one time I remember saying about the CDB. I said it's going to be an election issue. I said they're going to use the little carrot trick and they're going to dangle it. Nobody believed that. They said no. I said they will. You watch. And now here we are, and they're going to drag it out until 2025, the magic 2025, and then they're going to say, in their budget, they're going to put it in their budget, say, look, we heard you, it's coming. When's it coming? And then what will happen is that they'll call an election, and then boom.
Can it at least be correct?
We only have one advantage in that the Canadian Disability Benefit is now in royal assent. So if a snap election was to take place, it would literally be a fiscal decision to get it up and running if it got in. At least it's a royal assent, which we didn't have this time last year.
Right.
So the federal election's not happening.
I don't know if that'll do us a hill of beans, but
right. But
the fact that it is in liberal assent.
Yeah, it's like Joseph said when he was on the podcast. He said, "Well, it's law now, so the fact that it's law now means that it's going to happen."
Yeah, but they can drag it out as long as they want. So if another government,
but he even made the point. Joseph made the point they can't indefinitely drag their feet.
It has to be done.
It still has to be done.
Yeah.
So I mean that is one of the promising things. But having said that, well,
they can make it $20.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
They haven't funded it yet, so they can fund it to whatever level they want, which is, like you said, $20. It's like, here's $20.
Here's
job
a Tim
done.
Hortons.
Job
Oh,
done.
here's what
We've
doing.
done it.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, they're not going to call a snap election. It's already been set for October 2025. So we got to get away from that narrative of giving people a falsehood that there's going to be no fucking election till then. The only thing that's possibly going to happen on a federal level between now and the October 2025 federal election is that there might be leaderships, and I think on all three parties. And that's the only way something's going to change, right? I wouldn't vote for Poilievre if he fucking paid me $1 million. Trudeau is not the best guy in the world either. And Jagmeet Singh, Jagmeet Singh, I've met him before, nice guy, but he's not going to be fucking prime minister. So the
Tell
only
us how
way
you really feel, Dan.
Yeah.
we have to do this, because if we keep going on with the false narratives and the singular narratives and free this and do this and this doesn't matter and your life matters and mine doesn't, we're going to keep going in this fucking circle, right? We got to get together, even if we disagree. Get together like this and forums like this and listen to each other's ideas like we're doing right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, totally. Because it's like I use the terminology every so often. It's like the grass is not always greener on the other side, right? Yeah. And
the grass is blue.
The grass is blue and the sky is green, right? Because it's like people will say, well, and then this is nothing against the NDP, federal NDP, or the federal Greens, or any of them. It's someone will say, oh, well, I'm not doing this. It's all about holding the officials to account, right? It's holding them, saying, you promised to do this, so let's get this done. So it's, but I hear you about the federal leadership. Yes.
Can I be very much the producer editor right now? I have my parents coming soon, so I was wondering if we could cut the podcast a bit short today.
Sure.
I don't really know when they're, but I don't, because they're probably going to come in any minute. I'm going to be interrupting the podcast as it is, so I didn't really want to.
As soon as they come in, everyone's okay with that. I mean, I'm okay with that post, but
I just didn't want to be. I didn't want it to be an interruption or a distraction. So yeah. So
I mean, we have our Monday's episode on Live to Story.
And we have to wait a whole three weeks for another open mic. It's supposed to be every Friday. You liars! Yeah. You lie! You lie!
They say, what? Come on! I've already reserved my ticket.
Brent and Neil are liars.
Why did you do that?
Get off the podcast.
Why didn't you just launch it when you were available? I mean, come on. Inconsistency here, folks.
Yeah.
It comes down, like when we talk about the CDB and the DERB. It's holding them, the officials, to account. I'm really glad that there's some MPs out there that are really they're really hammering away at holding the government to account. Now, should more be done? I'm sure that probably a lot more could be done. What is it? I don't know the answer to make them actually get emergency funds out to help people now. Because I mean, the single narrative on it is people's lives matter. I mean, we're all Canadians. I mean, we're all citizens. We should all be, given a dignified life and enough to survive on, and not have to worry.
I was actually shocked. Well, I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised, but the announcement they just made, they're not even doing target measure stuff at all. There's no food rebates or anything in that announcement. I saw anyway. I was watching, I've been following him mostly because he was talking about what was going on with the pandemic and CERB, but Russell, I think his name is Russell something. He's got an economic channel on, he does real estate and a whole bunch of stuff, but Russell Matthews, he's on YouTube, and he's got quite a following, and he mainly focuses on Ontario, but anytime that there's a federal, like the announcement, he covers it in a live stream, and he talks about the things, and he said there didn't seem to be any target measures for anything, so I was kind of surprised, but not shocked.
That's a good way of about it. Yeah, for sure. When you said Russell, the first name that came to my mind when you said Russell, I thought, what, Russell Peters?
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
First person
Oh,
I
he's
thought was
funny.
Russell. What? Russell Peters. Hey, he'd be a good one to have on the show.
Maybe he should be prime minister.
Oh, yeah, there we are. Yeah, he'd be a part.
As long as Christian Freeland doesn't take Trudeau's spot, that's all I care about.
Ooh, yeah,
I do
yeah.
not trust her as a PM. I don't.
I've heard some rumbles, and I've heard some rumbles about that. I really hope that it's not. Yeah.
There's a few different people that have said they would consider running as a federal Liberal leader. I don't think I heard if she was one or not, but I don't know. From hearing different people post on different social platforms, whether it's TikTok or Facebook or Twitter, is that they just don't like Trudeau as in general. But I wonder how much of a mascot he is for the actual party, and kind of he's the puppet, and I'm just kind of curious who's got sticks in their hands.
How much?
Well,
how much money does it
He
take?
dances around.
Yeah, I was gonna wonder, like, how much money does it take to actually put your name forward as a prime minister? Like, can we start a GoFundMe campaign?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
can we just have like Brent for prime minister and just have a GoFundMe and you know, then put your name out there?
You're going to have to at least come up with a few $1 million, right? But see, this is part of the problem, and I'll say it as my closing so you can enjoy your wonderful family, is that people need to fucking vote. Go
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah.
Don't sit here. I don't give a shit on what level it is. You can't sit here and tell me, for example, what was it, 23% of people show up in fucking Ontario, 17% of them vote for Doug Ford, and he's got a majority, right? Same thing for Justin. Everybody does the same thing every time. An election comes, not even 6 months later, everybody wants fucking this person to resign, that person to resign. Get off your lazy asses and go vote. And I'll say it to everybody. Everybody that's physically able to. Even if you're not physically able to, contact your local office, and most of them will help you get to a polling station. The 9 times out of a fucking polling station is in your building or in your direct area. So get out and fucking vote or set your pie hole. There's no way we can have 20% of people voting and like 80 to 90% of the fucking country complaining.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You gotta get vote and then
that's what I say all the time, Dan. Is that people, like, I hear out here, they'll say, oh, well, we had so-and-so who got in. They kept getting the same government over, like we have for like 16, and I don't use the government terminology as 16 years or whatever, you know, but I mean, they do, oh, well, the same ones. Well, you know why? It's because people didn't get out and vote. Oh, my vote doesn't count. My vote doesn't count. Yes, it does. Every single vote counts, because if you don't vote, you have the right to vote. If you vote, I mean, yeah, there's a chance that maybe that person might get in, but if you don't vote, imagine also your neighbors, everybody else.
I think Ontario is kicking itself in the ass for not getting to the polls last time, because now even people that are conservative minded, and that I can use my mom's boyfriend or partner.
Yeah.
He's from Montreal, Laval, Quebec area, and he's very conservative, but he does not like Doug Ford. And I think a lot of conservatives are going. Are feeling the ick of voting for a party that they supported, and they're now going, this guy is a complete crook.
Well, now they see what he's doing, right, and it's affecting their lives, and they go, oh, you know, wow, I didn't know that, you know.
I wonder
if we. Forward, how do you think they're going to feel about Pierre Poilievre? Who would you leave your fucking kids to? Leave your kids to Pierre Poilievre or Justin Trudeau. You know what I mean? And that's what we're facing.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So it's damned if you do, it's damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Right? I'm an unbiased person too, right? I don't belong to any party.
Yeah.
I've never given a dime to any political person. I know with the ideas and shit, but you guys are hitting the nail right on the head. If you can't have one smelly doctor, which one do you want?
Yeah. I wonder if we had got rid of the first past the post thing, if that would.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like
get
for, like,
people more excited about voting, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys there in BC. Here in Ontario, we were actually supposed to be gunning for it by the 2026 municipal election. The city council actually put forward motions that started putting that into focus and into Zoom. And then
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about it for like the past year and a half.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know what you mean about that. It's called the pro rep voting, and they say rather than having the same party who gets in by popular vote, but they got less seats, but it's popular vote, and it's like provincially they say, well, it's going to be interesting how ours goes too, because right now, like the NDP, they had they won with the Greens, right, back in 2017, and then in 2020 they called it, as the media calls it, snap election, and so then now
Kind of snap.
and then all of a sudden the NDP got majority, right? Well, by themselves without the Greens, and now we have the BC United Party. Of course, it used to be formerly the BC Liberal Party. They changed their brand name. Critics say maybe probably wasn't a smart idea, because when we had a by-election, they lost a lot of their by-election candidates, because people didn't know, who's the BC United Party? They didn't know who they're voting for, so they voted for the Conservatives, Dan and Ellen. So they voted for the Conservatives. Now they're going way up, and now the BC United are going way down in the polls, but the NDP is surging up. So
on the federal level, the one thing that I'm really worried about is that Canadians will be throwing the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to voting Conservative, just because they don't like Trudeau. And it's the baby in the bathwater scenario, where I think if Trudeau stepped down and someone took his place, the Liberals might actually rebound back in their polls.
Well, I mean, maybe.
But I think with Freeland and Trudeau at the head, I have a feeling that Pierre's going to be the next prime minister, just because the dissidents across the board of Trudeau.
Well, one thing I've learned too is it's like the oppositions can always say something different when they're in opposition, right? What they're going to do, and then when they get into government, it's like a 360. And again, it's policies, right? It's holding them to account.
Jabin Singh's latest slogan is fake angry. The Pierre's not really angry. He's just angry he's not in power. And when he's off camera, he's not really truly angry for Canadians. He's angry because he's not running the show. Now that's Jabin's optic lens, but that's what he's been saying lately in his posts across social media and stuff, that the Conservatives are not really angry, they're fake angry. And I don't know.
Interesting viewpoint for sure. And to me, it doesn't matter.
It's all a big act. It's all a big theater.
Well, it's orchestrated, right? Yeah. I mean, and again, it's about it's like holding them just to account, right, Alan? It's making sure that the standards are met for your basic standards of living. Your needs are met, and from that point on, it's all kind of like, thrown on top, right? But when standards aren't being met, and they can all blame the governments, historically they love to blame each other. Oh yeah, but
it's theatrics. I mean, when you watch question and answer period in the House of Commons, it's just a big show. It's like
it's showtime.
It is. I mean, it's always been that way, but it's definitely gotten more dramatic in the last 20 years.
They get all harpoons. Here, catch. What? Whoa! Hey, whoa!
I lost track of chat again because I was flipping back and forth between windows, and so I was not following chat again. so you can slap me on the wrist. Yeah, but we had a Megan Walker in chat, and she says that she knows you, Dan. Do you know a Megan Walker, or because I think she was referring to you.
With regards to.
She's made a few comments. She was making a few comments and saying, "Well, is anybody following the chat?" And that was when I wasn't following the chat. But yeah, I just didn't know if you knew a Megan or not, because I think she said that you told her to tune in or something like that. But she also said that she's hearing impaired, and so for anybody that's hearing impaired, they should know that after this gets published, that YouTube automatically does the captioning, but not like right away. It takes a few hours for them to publish the closed captioning. But every video eventually gets the closed cap. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I did want to mention too, is there was a disabled lady in my building who has watched a little bit of our podcast. So now she's getting very interested in the podcast, and I told her about it, and she says, "Oh, looks very fascinating." She goes, "Is it PWD Allies?" I go, "Yeah, that's right." She goes, "I have a feeling it might be that same person. I don't know, but." Anyway, there was a lady that told me, "Is it closed caption because she's really hard of hearing?"
Oh, and I said, she's talking about you then, Brent.
Oh, maybe because it might be the same person. And if it is Megan, yeah. I'm sorry. Because there was
it was Megan Walker. So she said, "I'm Bubbles' neighbor." So she said Bubble. She said, "I'm Bubbles' neighbor." She said. So maybe she calls you Bubbles or something. I don't.
Bubbles. Maybe she got my name.
Oh, I don't know. I assumed I assumed that she was talking about Dan. Sorry.
I mean, she could be.
You had me scared there for a second.
Okay.
See, that's right?
Boobly bits, that's what we call it here. I mean.
Oh yeah, I thought when she said she's got Bubbles here, so I thought, well, maybe Michael Bublé is going to be listening. Then I thought this is good.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
People that have accounts, right? I noticed it on my own too. Sometimes their names will be different when they go in off of YouTube as opposed to like Twitter or what have you. So it would be set up. It depends also too if you have a YouTube account or channel. So that's why I got sort of confused. But yeah, it must have been Brent.
I do find that the closed cap is not perfect, but it's definitely way better than it ever was on Twitter Spaces. Twitter Spaces was like you're reading French. I mean, and I mean, you know, somebody like Birdie wouldn't care. It's just I just don't care. I'm French, you know. But you know, you know, you'd read it and it's like this is not English, you know. Mm-hmm. And I know YouTube does make mistakes, but at least it's relatively legible. It's more or less English when they transcribe it, so it's good.
Well, even when Parliament does it, and then they switch to where the politician switches to French and they translate to English where they're speaking in French. Like some of the gaps are horrendous. Like you're going, what? Who is? Oh boy!
And the odd time, some of the wording, it's not always the word that they use. It's like I will sometimes speak into like they have for text, you can speak into it, and sometimes it'll send the wrong words out. I know I've sent to Neil before, and I didn't proofread it, and I think there were some curse words in here and there. I'm going, no, that's not what I said. I'm like, it's like, what the?
Yeah, what was the one about the open mic? You said something about open mic, and it came across like, I'm going to open my shirt. Something like that, and I'm like, you know, it's like I love autocorrect. It went from open mic to open my shirt. I'm like,
okay. I think I said to Birdie one day.
No, it was open my coat. It was open my coat. That's what it was.
That's it.
Yeah, open my coat. It's like, okay, Brent's gonna open his coat like this.
I love the one that I love the one that with the autocorrect is when it says, "It's never duck. It's never ever duck."
Yeah, right.
And I said to one, I had usually I type it out, but sometimes if I'm in a hurry, so like I'll load it up and then you actually do it right in direct message. And I think it was up to one of the MPs one time, and I said, "Well, when were you having the open mic?" And I think I did autocorrect didn't actually spell it out properly. Like it actually put it in there. It says something about open. Instead of open mic, it said open like shove it or something. And I thought, oh no! And I sent it off, and I didn't proofread it, and it says, "Oh wow!" So I guess it must be a really entertaining open mic. Well, I'll have to check it out. And I'm like, "That's not what I meant to type out. I'm so sorry." "It's okay. You used autocorrect, didn't you?" I go, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, "Oh God, it's so good."
You know what? I gotta take off because I got a 5:30. I just looked at the time clock there. But it's
Okay.
always great talking to you guys. I encourage everybody to reach out to Neil's channel and like, subscribe, share. Also reach out to us, 624, and vote for Kevin Ruperson. That's kevroop.ca, November 30th, and follow any of Alan's pages. His pictures are awesome.
Thanks, Dan. We should
Hey,
should punch out anyway, Brent.
Yeah.
I think it's a good time.
Yeah, okay.
Just before my
And,
transcript here.
Yeah, Dan, are you going to be checking in on Monday's Disability Stories show?
You know what? I'm going to be watching it, but I'm going to sit aside, right? I want to actually give some space to others to jump in there and
Yeah,
share their stories. But I will be around, and if you guys need anything, just reach out to me. I'll be available. I'll be watching.
Okay.
If I ignore chat again, Dan, don't kill me, okay?
If you enjoy chat, you can write 2,000 messages so you respond to all of us.
Just throw a couple of grenades at them. That's fine.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in today.